But the whole healing cascade starts with, what's the linkage that starts it? The truth about God. If you don't come to the truth about God, then you don't really trust him. And if you don't really trust him, then you never open the heart truly to him. And therefore you don't get renewal. And you create theologies that cause you to live in fear. We're going to go through some of those in just a moment. This is why John 17:3, Jesus said, life eternal is they might know you. Because when you know him, you trust him. And when you trust him, you open the heart. And the Spirit comes in. And love casts out fear. And you begin to live a life of love. So how does Satan oppose? If we understand this now, you understand how the corruption started, by lies being believed. And now we understand that the healing cascade, truth about God, restores trust. Then Satan works to oppose this healing plan. What's his strategy? How does he work to stop it? Can't stop what Jesus accomplished. He tried in the Old Testament. Much of the Old Testament, if you read it rightly, is a battle between Christ and Satan in the Old Testament to try to obstruct the avenue through which Messiah, the promised seed, would arrive. And Satan is working constantly to corrupt the whole human race, so there's nobody that will be the mother of Jesus, and you see that in the time of the flood, there's only one righteous man, and then after God says it's through Abraham's seed, then the whole focus of both Satan's attacks and God's protections work on the children of Israel, because if he can crush Abraham's seed, then he destroys the avenue for Messiah. And this is what's happening in the Old Testament if you track it through. But Jesus come. He's finished his work. He's achieved the remedy. He can't stop what Jesus came to accomplish. It's done. But he can stop you and me from participating in it, from experiencing it. And how does he do that? Well, he obstructs the knowledge of God so that we don't truly trust him. He presents false gospels that misrepresent God as a being that we need to be protected from, which is the predominant view in Christianity. And the reason for this is that Christians have accepted the lie about God's law, which was prophesied in Daniel 7:25. A little horn power would arrive, and he would seek to change God's law. Paul wrote about this in Thessalonians. The man of sin would come. He would set himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. How did he do that? What temple? Spirit temple. How? By getting us to believe God functions on imperialism and runs his universe like Caesar runs Rome. Now we aren't worshiping God anymore. We have a form of godliness with no power because we're worshiping a dictator who we must be protected from. And then theology after theology. I was at the ACC. I presented these ideas there. And I asked people, I asked the audience, I said, how many of your belief things that you've been taught, you actually currently hold them, that have this function for you? This is what they're doing for you, functionally. They're either hiding you or protecting you from God. And there are blank stares. I'm like, no, I don't believe anything like that. So I said, so none of you believe things like this. Well, I'm covered by the robe of righteousness, so when the Father sees me, he can't see my sin. I'm washed in the blood, or covered by the blood, or cleansed by the blood, so the Father can't see my sins. Or the blood has been applied to my record book in heaven, so my sins are erased, and when the Father examines the books, there's no record of my sin. Or Jesus stands between me and the Father and presents himself, Father, look at me, don't look at them. And then I paused. There was a silence, and one of the ladies in the audience shouted out, yes, I believe all those things. What do I do? And I love that lady. She came to my booth and I gave her a hug. I said, I love you. And that's the lie. Notice functionally all those doctrines are doing. They function because you're scared of him. You're afraid. Perfect love casts out fear. We're to be reconciled back to him. When Jesus comes again, it says in John that we will see him face to face, for we shall be like him. But that's not what Christianity is teaching. Christianity is teaching that when you accept Christ, he comes in, transforms, renews you, rebuilds you, recreates you so that you become like Christ. And why does it the Father sees Christ's perfect character when he looks at you? Because it's no longer I that live, but Christ lives in me. It's not a covering over, it's a recreation within. This is the big difference. The penal legal model cheats people out of knowing God. It leaves them in fear, and there's no power. So they have a form of godliness with no power. I expose all of this in my latest book, The God-Shaped Heart. And those of you who've read it know I go through in great detail outlining across the landscape of Christianity, multiple denominations, this infection is accepted orthodox. But because of this infection, there's no difference in child abuse rates, spouse abuse rates, pornography use, addictions in Christian homes and non-Christian homes. Form of godliness, no power, because hearts aren't changing. They're not even seeking heart changing. They're told you're going to keep sinning right up until time. Just be sure you get legal coverage for it.